audience. If you turn to the audience, we'll assume that you have completed your speech. At this time, we'll have the prayer and invocation by Mr. Barr.
Let us pray. Lord, we want to thank you for this time we have together. We want to thank you for this opportunity that we live in a country. We thank you for your freedoms. We ask you to pray for those in our military that keep us free. We ask for a very good meeting, for some good things to come out of it. Bless everyone in this room, the board and staff. We ask all in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Barr. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. Do we have any announcements from staff?
Mr. Chair, there is one announcement that we need to make, and the following case has been tabled and will be rescheduled for a later date, and that is case number RZ-19-01, the Forest Development Group Incorporated of Ellenwood, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to MU, mixed use, for property located on the west side of Flippin Road, east of Interstate 75, and land lots 38, 39, 26, and 27 of the 12th District. The property consists of 310.261 plus or minus acres, and the request is for mixed-use development that includes multi-family residences, office, commercial, and industrial uses. This case will be located in District 4 and 5, and this item is tabled per the request of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any additional announcements?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay. If not, we'd like to hear the first case.
Case number RZ-18-20, the Reservoir Group of Watkinsville, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to RS, residential suburban, for property located on Willow Lane, north of Hopewell Place in land lot 128 of the 7th District. The property consists of 23 plus or minus acres, and the request is to rezone for a single-family residential and townhouse development. This property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
Good evening, Chair and board members.
Good evening.
This rezoning request is for property located on either side of Willow Lane to the north of Hopewell Place, as highlighted in green in your exhibit books and as seen on the overhead screen. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to RS, residential suburban, for the development of a 44-lot single-family residential subdivision extension on the east side of Willow Lane and a 56-unit townhome development on the west side of Willow Lane. So the applicant is proposing to connect the single-family homes to the existing subdivision to the south known as Pembroke Park. And as such, this portion would not take access off of Willow Lane, only off of Emporia Loop. The area surrounding the subject property is a combination of single-family, multi-family residential developments, commercial, industrial zoning, as well as proximity to the only mixed-use zoning district zoning property in the county. The proposed development is in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. As you can see, the subject property is divided by Willow Lane. The eastern portion is designated for mixed use, which is the purple, while the west portion is designated for high-density residential, both which allow a density of up to 16 dwelling units per acre. This development has a proposed density of 8.25 net dwelling units per acre with 35% open space. Staff recommends approval of the request with 7 conditions as detailed in your exhibit books. As well as seen on the overhead screen. An additional condition is being recommended by staff and is shown as number 8, and it's in italics, and I'll read it out for you. All disturbed areas shall be sodded except where landscaping is present or installed. I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Does the board have questions for staff? Okay. If not, we'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Steve Moore, Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Here tonight representing the Reservoir Group in this request. I'm just going to put one exhibit up. So, as Yuritsa pointed out, the property is currently bisected into two tracks by Willow Lane. The western side obviously being the townhome side, which is adjacent, as you can see, to the apartment complex immediately to the south, and a very recent rezoning of a multifamily to the west, immediately adjacent to the west. The single-family product is proposed on the east side of Willow Lane as an extension of Pembroke Park subdivision. It is the same size lots, and there's a road that's stubbed out to the property line with the intention of extending it for future development up to the creek. The zoning that we're requesting is residential suburban, which does require a mixture of two uses of single family and multifamily, and obviously those are our two uses that we're proposing to be in compliance with that district. The single family lots are approximately 60 feet wide by 120 feet deep. Again, very consistent with exactly what was already built and approved in Pembroke Park. We're proposing approximately 8 acres of open space between the two tracks that would be owned by the homeowners associations for each project, which would each have their own independent homeowners association. As Yuritsa said, we're in compliance with the future land use map. We have approval from staff. We believe it's an appropriate use for the area, very compatible with surrounding land uses. We've read through all the conditions, including the one I just heard that was added, and that's A-OK. We're fine with that as well. So we're in full agreement with those conditions and happy to take any additional questions you got.
Does the board have questions for the applicant? Mr. Richard?
Yes, I have a question. Have you read or seen the recommendation by the Henry County Department of Transportation concerning a second access point on the west side of Willow Lane?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we'll add that to the plan as a product of that comment.
All right, so the plans are going to be revised to
Yes, sir.
to accommodate that?
Yes, we can revise that prior to the Board of Commissioners hearing to reflect that condition.
Any additional questions, Mr. Richard?
Yes, one more. Is this the final phase of the Pembroke subdivision, or will there be others?
That I honestly don't know. I believe it's one of the final phases, but there may be some internal phases that haven't yet been developed.
I mean, on that, no, this is one of the final phase. This is part of a planned development. There is at least 1 or 2 tracks at the intersection of Bridges Road and Willow Lane that are designated for a type of residential and commercial use that has not been developed yet.
Okay. At the time that subdivision was zoned and approved, was there any kind of a traffic impact study when it was first approved?
If it was, it would need to be updated by now.
It went through a full DRI review and Greta and a Greta review as well.
Okay, thanks.
In the original master plan.
Any additional questions? Mr. Brown?
Yes, what kind of green space have you reserved in the 2 locations that you have here?
There's it's essentially this area that is bordered here. There's buffers. We've offered buffers adjacent to Willow Lane, as well as in this back area here. There is a small creek that runs over on the edge, and some of this is in the floodplain, but the floodplain's roughly in that zone here. So this property has been dedicated as open space, and then a buffer around the perimeter here, as well as in this zone over here. But it's surrounded entirely by open space.
Okay, those spaces that you've outlined, are they usable for the citizens that will be living at those two locations there?
Some of it is, and some of it, like I said, is in floodplain, which is still usable by the citizens and by the residents of those communities. There's some areas right at the creek that wouldn't be usable, but for the most part, I would say yes, they are usable.
Okay. Do you have any, what other amenities do you have for the residents of those two locations there?
We have not proposed any amenities within these two developments, largely because I believe the Pembroke part would have access to the amenities in the Pembroke community. It would be an extension of that. The other site, we have not proposed any amenity per se on that other than the dedication of that open space, but we could certainly incorporate some small pocket park or, access in those open space areas.
Okay. So, the reason I ask that is when we are building communities like this with that have large numbers of people in them, it's hard for the county to provide recreation for them on the outside. So it would seem like that in order for them to, we're looking for these live, work, play environments, and it seems like that's some of the things that are missing in that on your presentation there.
Yes, sir, we could certainly take that into advisement. Like I said, there is opportunity. This map, I think it's similar to what Yuritsa already showed you. But this does communicate and show that there is a floodplain area there, and there's a floodplain area there, but everything, for the most part, in between those areas is technically, buildable property, usable property for recreational purposes.
Okay, but there's none included in your current plan?
There's no constructed amenity proposed with our current plan.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
I have one question. On that, are those two retention ponds
Yes, sir.
that you see? Okay, so you really have no room for trails or?
And that's more of a spatial allocation. I really don't think we're going to need two big ponds for that little project. We were trying to just balance, and we were really taking a very conservative approach with our density calculations. That's why we assumed worst case scenario, but at the end of the day, when we get to design, it'll be much smaller and there'll be much more room for those purposes.
Any additional questions?
I do. Do you have an estimate of how many lots for the single-family residential lots would qualify for side entry garages?
On this one, it would technically, the only ones that probably would even fit would be the corner lots at the intersections, and I can see maybe one or two in the end of the cul-de-sacs. But just given the lot width of 60 feet, it's pretty challenging.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Mr. Richard?
Is this phase going to look pretty much like the rest of the Pembroke subdivision in terms of setbacks? Homes are very close together,
Yes, sir.
in that neighborhood. And is there any extra fire protection, built into the construction of the homes?
I believe the PD zoning may have allowed a smaller side setback than what the RS zoning allows or requires. I think in the RS we have to be 10-foot side setbacks, which puts the houses 20 feet apart. And then for some reason, I believe on that PD rezoning for Pembroke, it's a lot smaller. It may be 7.5 foot or even 5-foot side setbacks. I don't have that information in front of me, but certainly everything that's built will comply with any kind of fire codes based on proximity to the adjacent homes. But I do think the zoning in and of itself requires more separation than what's in Pembroke.
I have one.
Okay.
On the condominiums that are across the street there, do they have firewalls in between them?
Yes, I'm sure they would have to by fire code. Yes, sir.
Any additional questions for the applicant? If not, you may be seated, sir. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone speaking in favor of this case. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the case. Okay. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone speaking in opposition of the case. 10 minutes for anyone speaking in opposition. Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? If not, we'd like to call the case.
Case number RZ-18-20, the Reservoir Group of Watkinsville, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban for property located on Willow Lane, north of Hopewell Place in land lot 128 of the 7th District. The property consists of 23 plus or minus acres, and the request is to rezone for a single-family residential and townhouse development. The property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the requested rezoning with all of the staff and Department of Transportation conditions that are attached to the report.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-19-02, Stella F. Daly of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R3 Single Family Residence for property located at 707 Peach Drive in land lot 48 of the 6th District. The property consists of 50.42 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential development. This property is located in Commission District 4 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. The location of the subject property before you at this time is Peach Drive, near the Peach Drive entrance to the Eagles Landing subdivision, on the south side of the Eagles Landing subdivision. On the overhead and in your exhibit books, the Eagles Landing subdivision is indicated in this pink color, which indicates that this is a planned development. The subject property is outlined in green. The future land use map for the subject property, in this case outlined in red, shows a medium density residential land use category for up to 6 dwelling units per acre. The applicant is actually requesting 1.2 net dwelling units per acre, so the future land use map supports the applicant's request. The aerial shows you the relation of the subject property with other lots and gives you a ballpark idea of the size of the lots in the general area. The site plan is included in your staff reports, and it's also indicated on the overhead. You'll notice that there's a lake that's indicated on the site plan as Daly Lake, and there are 43 lots that are proposed to be around Daly Lake. 11 of these lots actually have frontage on Bethpage Drive, and all of these lots will have access within the gates of the Eagles Landing subdivision. None of the lots. This subdivision is not proposed to have any direct access onto Peach Drive at all. So staff is in, we have a letter from the Eagles Landing Property Owners Association stating that this development is supported by the Eagles Landing Property Owners Association, and that they do have access to these private streets that are within the gates of the subdivision. Staff recommends approval of the applicant's request with 6 conditions. We would also like to add a 7th condition, which would state the disturbed areas of any house lot shall be fully sodded, except where landscaping is present or installed. I would also like to bring to the board's attention that our first condition limits the number of lots to 43, but that the applicant's site plan would allow additional lots if they developed to actually the R3 standard, which they're requesting. If the applicant is requesting more than 43 lots, and if this board agrees that there needs to be 43, then you would need to revisit that first recommended condition and make appropriate changes. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have questions for staff? Are there any dams around this lake here?
Yes, so if you'll notice on the site plan, this area here that is right beside Peach Drive is a dam for what's being called Daly Lake. Yes, sir.
Stacey, I have one question now. The 43, are we approving the max of 43 lots?
That is our first recommended condition, that the development of the subject property would be limited to 43 lots. But after the staff report was published, the applicant called staff and actually said that they may propose more lots, and so that might be a better question for the applicant.
Okay, all right. Any additional questions for, yeah, Mr. Carmichael?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, before I ask my question, in the spirit of full transparency, I want everyone to know that I live in the Eagles Landing subdivision, but I don't intend to recuse myself because I don't have any financial interest in this particular project. My question goes back to the question regarding the dams. Are there state and federal regulations relating to the maintenance of dams?
It is my understanding that there are, but I don't have firsthand knowledge of them.
Okay.
I can tell you that one of our conditions is that, condition number 4, all areas of the development not included within a platted house lot shall be owned and maintained by a homeowners association. So in that regard, the maintenance of the dam would be the responsibility of a homeowners association.
Okay, Stacey? I'm sorry. Any additional questions? Mr. Barr?
I just want to make sure I'm clear on condition 1 with the 43 lots. You look on page 4, we have the density of 1.2. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see that, not an option to add more lots, thus making it match what's already there with Eagles Landing.
I understand. And that's one of the reasons why we recommended the condition that specified the number of lots. It's not necessary to condition both the number of lots and the density. We chose to condition the number of lots because that's what was indicated on the site plan.
I'm sorry. Okay. Criteria 1, the last sentence, requested development will not exceed 1.2 dwellings. So you've taken care of it there. That'd be correct?
Yes, but I do want to reiterate that the future land use map, which is our policy guide, is for medium density residential, which would support a density of up to 6. So if it's the pleasure of the board to allow or to recommend the allowance to have more than 1.2, then that should be a part of your motion.
Any additional questions? I have one other question, Stacey. Now, will it fall up under the Eagles Landing Homeowners Association?
That is not stipulated in the conditions. It's very possible that it would. The conditions that we recommend just state that there would be a homeowners association, and it certainly could be the Eagles Landing Property Owners Association.
All right, well, we'll ask that. Any additional questions? Okay. If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is George Harper, Paramount Engineering, 11 East Broad, Noonan, Georgia. 11 East Broad Street, Noonan, Georgia. I'm here representing the Stella F. Daly family this evening for the rezoning of this 50-acre parcel. Basically, almost is the last developed parcel around the Eagles Landing subdivision. This property's been vacant and wooded and been in their family for a number of years, and now they are getting older and are wanting to sell it and retire. So, as you can see, it does include the Daly's Lake after their namesake. It is it's a real nice piece of property, heavily wooded. It all drains down to the area. There's some existing houses on the north side of Bethpage Drive right now that are part of the Eagles Landing subdivision. And of course ours is on the south side of Bethpage Drive. we designed the lots and laid out the lot widths, which are approximately 120 feet, to match the lots on the north side that are already part of Eagles Landing. I believe the R3 zoning allows lots of 100 feet, but we made them a little wider, so they would match all of those existing houses and existing lots. Also, those lots on the north side are all about somewhere around half an acre. All of our lots will be an acre or more. So it's, we're meeting or exceeding all the lots that are in the Eagles Landing subdivision there. The house prices in this area will match those of Eagles Landing, 600 plus, in that area. We're planning to have a pavilion somewhere, if you're looking on the, here we go, somewhere in the curve right here. A pavilion is planned that will be turned over to the homeowner association so they can enjoy the lake. And again, as Stacy stated, this will become part of the Eagles Landing Homeowner Association. We have the president of the Eagles Landing Homeowner Association here tonight in support of us. And so we work diligently with them to make sure that they are happy with the product, and they are. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Does the board have questions for the applicant? Mr. Richard?
Could you show us on the map where the applicant proposes to have the additional lots? And then a second question is, has there been a state or any kind of engineering inspection of the dam, and what would its downstream impacts be if it was breached?
Okay. Here is the latest layout that we did. As you can see, we went basically from 43 lots to 45. And where we picked up an additional lot or two was around 11, 12, 13, kind of in the corner, the lower left-hand corner. That was a large area before, and we kind of figured a way to maybe get another lot or two in there. Again, yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at it backwards there. I apologize. There you go. Much better. So lots 11, 12, 13 in that area, that's where we were able to obtain another lot or two. These all still have 120-foot widths at the building line, which, as you can see, kind of match the lots on the north side of Bethpage Drive. By the time we actually get to final engineering, we've got some lots like, for instance, number 35 there. That lot may go away. So we're going to be right in that neighborhood of 43 to 45 until we get to final engineering. We may lose one or so, but we wanted the ability to, if we are able to gain another lot or two, have that ability to be able to include those in the zoning. So, but this is our latest plan, which as you can see, didn't change a whole lot from the original. As far as the dam, we have not done any assessment on the dam yet. I know that will come as a comment from the engineering department. I need to verify the height of the dam. That will kind of determine what class it is, and then what all we need to do for that. So to answer your question, it hasn't been done, but that will come up as we go through the development process.
Who would do an inspection like that?
There are companies up there in Atlanta that do them. I don't particularly do them. There's not enough. I don't do them enough of them. But
so you have to hire someone to do it, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be a third party that comes in and would assess the dam, and if there's something that needs to be done, upgraded, all that type of stuff, then they will take care of all that. Yes, ma'am.
Does this come under the Safe Dams Act?
That's kind of what I was saying. I haven't gotten quite that far into it yet to verify the heights and to see where we are and all of that. We'll hire the consultant to handle all of that. So rest assured, engineering will catch that, and we'll address that.
Okay, lots of number 11 and 12 are kind of odd shaped. They're almost flag lots. Could you show us where the setback line would be on those lots?
Yes. So the houses would be more, back in probably this area here. on these lots. This house here would be more in this area, and this one here. Kind of get them back off the road a little bit. Obviously, we wouldn't be trying to squeeze the house in here. It would be kind of tough to do, and it wouldn't be a very nice product. So, you know, the point of it is to all give those lots a nice lake view. That's what sells the lots. And so, you know, as closer we can get to having that nice view of those lots of the lake, then that's what we're going to try to do. So.
Okay, does it still have the 60 foot of frontage as required by the
Yes, sir.
county subdivision
Yes, sir.
code?
Yeah, and most of these all have 120.
Mr. Carter. Mr. Harper, you indicated that all the lots would be 1 acre or more. Is that would that still be the case if you increased the number of lots from 43 to 45?
No, sir. All of our lots won't be 100, and I misspoke on that, and I apologize, because the lots in the back we have some that are roughly around a half an acre. I was referring to the lots on the, that are adjacent to the existing lots in Eagles Landing. So the lots right there, 1 through 13, and those will all be an acre or more. Yes, sir.
Okay. And also you indicated that there will be an engineering study performed.
Yes, sir.
And the developer and owner would pick up all the costs for the improvements, if any improvements are recommended.
Yes, sir. If any improvements are recommended, that will be part of the developer's cost of development. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have a problem if we make that one of the conditions of approval?
No, sir.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
One other question.
Yes, sir.
What will the minimum square footage be of the homes?
3,000. I mean, we're going to have most of the houses are 600 plus. So, it would be a minimum of probably 3,000 square feet, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have a problem if we make that a condition of approval?
That would be fine.
Any additional questions?
I would like to revisit that number 1 again, because I know we did talk about it, and I know Stacy referred to it a couple times. If we could amend that to 45, as we have on the updated layout, we would like to do that if possible. Again, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to even obtain the 45 by the time we get to develop our stormwater plans and that type of stuff. But we would like the flexibility to be able to, if we are able to get creative and address some of those issues, to get to 45 max, which is shown on this new plan.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. You may be seated, sir. At this time, we'd like to ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of this case. Anyone would like to speak in favor? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brenda Culpepper. My address is 837 Cog Hill, McDonough, Georgia. I'm president of the Eagles Landing Property Owners Association. And I'd like to give a couple of comments. I made some notes. First of all, we have been meeting with the developer. He took his first meeting with Century Management, that's the management company that manages Eagles Landing, and myself, showed us the project, and we reviewed it and was very impressed by all of the due diligence that he had displayed. We then took a secondary meeting with our architectural review committee so that we can talk about lot sizes, sizes of the houses, so forth and so on. We then had a third meeting with our entire board of directors to talk about some of the same things, but one of the things that was most important was the issue of the dam. And we recommended to him the company that we use that deals with all of our bridges and water issues is Response Environmental, and we were making it a condition of getting our approval that he has that looked into as well. So that was already discussed in one of our meetings. We've also discussed minimum house sizes. We discussed the covenants, making it a part of the homeowners association, what the processes would be to do that. So I'm here to say that we are, as a community, as a homeowners association, we are in support of the Bethpage at Eagles Landing project. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this case? Anyone would like to speak in favor? Okay, if no one else would like to speak in favor, we would like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. No one's coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. At this time, we'd like to call the case.
Case number, case number RZ 19-02. Stella F. Daly of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R3, single-family residence for property located at 707 Peach Drive in land lot 48 of the 6th District. The property consists of 50.42 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential development. This property is located in Commission District 4 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootsill, Chief Planner.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a promotion that we approve the staff recommendation with the added conditions that, one, the minimum square footage of the homes shall be no less than 3,000 square feet. And condition number 8, that an engineering study will be performed on the dam/lake, and all improvements will be the responsibility of the developer/owner.
Okay.
Do you want to give them the 45 lots? Do you want to give them the 45 lots?
No.
I was asking for that.
We,
Limited to the 43 lots.
Stay at 43?
Yeah.
state that. I'm sorry, say again.
The state, the staff had recommended 43 lots, and I think we should stay with that.
Okay. All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-18-25, Mandalay Properties of Cumming, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R5, single-family residence for property located on the west side of Highway 155, north of Town Square Drive in land lot 102 of the 7th District. The property consists of 17.9 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision. This property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
Good evening, good evening, Chair and board members. This rezoning request is for a property located west side of Highway 155 to the north of Town Square Drive, highlighted in green in your exhibit books and is seen on the overhead. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA, rural residential agriculture, and to R5, single-family residence, for development of 28 single-family lots. The subject property is surrounded by a mixture of zoning districts. 2 of the adjacent properties is within the city limits of McDonough. The proposed development is in compliance with our comprehensive plan and the future land use map. The future land use map designation of medium density, which allows up to 6.0 dwelling units per net acre,
and the proposed development will have a net density of 2.2 dwelling units. Staff recommends approval of the request with no conditions because the property is within the highway corridor overlay. After further discussion, staff now recommends one condition as shown on the overhead. Board, if you wish to approve this condition as a part of your recommendation, please include it a part of your motion. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? Okay, Mr. Richard.
On the plat that you just put up, it looks like there was some kind of a, drainage feature or some kind of water feature. Is that a floodplain area or a creek?
Floodplain.
And is that a 100-year floodplain, on the FEMA maps? Is that?
Yes.
Is that flowing water through that floodplain or creek?
That will be a question for the applicant.
And the other feature that goes, I think diagonally to the northwest from the southeast, what is that?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Is that a power line right of way?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional questions for staff? With no additional questions, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Board. My name is Royce Grant, 4170 Chattahoochee Road, Cumming, Georgia. I'm here tonight on behalf of Mandalay Properties to rezone a property it's 17.9 acres on Highway 155, just north of the city of McDonough Square. I'm seeking a rezoning from RA to R5. The lot size we're recommending are 10,890 square feet, lot width of 75 width. Based on the future land use map, this property is designated as medium density residential, which is up to 6 units per acre. And what we propose is a total of 28 lots, which is far below the 6 units per acre. Our proposal is for 2.2 units per acre. We are well aware that we're in the highway corridor, and we're willing to follow whatever that goes along with this property. As far as proposed home sizes, we're proposing I think the overlay or the corridor proposes 1,800, but I'm willing to up that to a 2,200 square foot minimum. The area on this map that would be the top left on this map, there's actually some usable land that's on the other side of the creek as well. So we've got probably about 2.5 acres of floodplain, 2.5 to 3, and about 2.5 to 3 of usable land, but it's not cost effective to use lots on that side of the creek. So based on this layout, we have roughly between 5 and 6 acres that would be set aside in open space or green space for this neighborhood. I'd like to discuss the surrounding neighborhoods. All right, so surrounding the property, it's fronts on 155, so the eastern boundary of the property is Highway 155. To the south of this subject property is the Heritage Town Square subdivision. Those lots are 18,000 square foot lots on sewer, and those were rezoned roughly in the year 2000, 2001, so 19, 20 years ago. The homes are, I think 50% were 2,000 square feet and 50% were 2,200 square feet. To the west of the subject property, to go back, the town square, the density in that neighborhood is 2.1 units per acre. And take in mind, I'm proposing 2.2. The west of the subject property is Huntington Ridge subdivision. And the Huntington Ridge subdivision, granted it's in the city of McDonough, but those lots are 7,000 square foot lots. which the net density on those is pushing 4 units per acre. And the property to north of the subject property, the 2 parcels that are directly north are owned by family or relatives of the subject property, so they're not against the rezoning as well. And then just the parcel north is Pinnacle Point, and granted it is a retirement community, but the net density there is 4.37, and we're asking for 2.2, which is, we're asking far below the surrounding densities of the neighborhoods. I think there's kind of been a precedence also of there's been some other pieces of property that's been in this medium density residential that's also been approved for higher density, and we're kind of on that low end at 2.2. Just also down the road, just to point out, at the corner of Judy Drive and 155, that has been approved for townhomes a long time ago, but that is, roughly 2,000 feet away from the subject property. So that's something that we do have to compete with, is a townhome development that close. So it just shows that there is some density in that area because we are close to the city of McDonough, and that's where we want our growth. That makes sense where to have density. The development costs, as you know, have skyrocketed. So a new development, the lots are going to be very expensive. And so what that does is the lots are expensive. That makes the homes very expensive. So I don't see anything less than a product of $275,000 going in, and that's probably at a minimum. I'm sure it'll probably be, that would be the floor, if not higher. And definitely, staff has the report of approval, and we definitely, I don't mind that recommendation as well that she added. Just provided that, just to be clear, in the past when we built some houses, when we have the terms, the yard shall be all sod. Just want to make sure that we are able to put pine straw areas around, shrubs and around the house. But I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And I do appreciate your consideration. Thank you very much.
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Have you spoken with any of the homeowners in the adjacent subdivision, the town Square Center subdivision, and which there been? I'd be interested in knowing what their reaction is. Their zoning is R3, I think 18,000 square feet, and you're stepping down quite a bit to to much smaller size lots. And I just wondered if you'd reached out to any of those residents.
No, sir. I personally have not reached out to anyone in the neighborhood. Just want to point out, though, that the density we're proposing is 2.2, and the density of that neighborhood is 2.1, and there was no green space or no open space in that particular neighborhood, and we are proposing open space as well.
Okay, now your density figure, does that include the floodplain area, or is that subtracting out the floodplain? Because there might be a big difference there.
The gross density is 1.6, and the net density is 2.2.
And what is the width of the lots in the town Square Center subdivision? And
Don't hold me to it, but I believe they may be possibly 100.
And yours would be what, 75?
75, yes, sir. Which are larger than Huntington Ridge and larger than Pinnacle Point.
Would your homes have side entry, a side entry garage, or?
It's very tough to get side entry garage, so I would imagine these would be all front entry garage. On a 75-foot lot width, it'd be tough. It's possible, but it'd be tough.
Okay. And would this be on city sewer and water or county?
Yes, sir. This is City McDonough Sewer and Water. And the sewer line is already existent that runs through the subject property. There'd be no off-site sewer.
Have the owners thought about annexation into the city?
Yes, sir. A while back, it was proposed to be annexed in the city. And of course, the city was willing to give a little bit higher density. So they were looking at probably closer to 38 lots if it was annexed into the city. I guess it was on the legislative ballot, and it was for votes, and it did not go through.
Right, that was the one that was voted on and it didn't pass.
Yes, sir, correct.
That's all for now.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Yes, sir. Sir, we have additional question for you.
I may have missed this. What will the buildings be constructed of?
I think that's also in the highway corridor,
Yes.
and that's already specified.
Yes.
Do you have the exact terminology of that?
You can anticipate brick, stone, stucco, cementous fiberboard, hardy plank, those materials.
There'll be no, vinyl siding will not be an exterior. Only on a soffit or fascia will vinyl be used.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, if not, sir, you may be seated.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'd like to ask anyone that would like to speak in favor of this case. You have 10 minutes for anyone that would like to speak in favor of the case. Okay, no one's coming forward. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name's Warren Tillery. I'm a lawyer at Smith Welch Webb and White. My address is 2200 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. So I live in Ben Horton, which is a subdivision directly across the street. And there's some concerns that me and some of my neighbors have regarding the increase in traffic and the detrimental impact on the surrounding communities. Primarily, though, I think it's a little disingenuous to say that the net density here is 2.2 and then compare it to one south and say, well, that one's 2.1. And the reason is because that's counting the floodplain in this. So you heard the applicant say that it's useless land, it's not cost effective to build on the other side of it. But if you take a proportionate fraction of 2.2, that's roughly half-acre lots, right? And that doesn't sound necessarily too bad. But if you were to take out the portion here on the left side of the transmission line, and also the transmission line itself, which is an easement, what you've really got is less than quarter-acre lots. So this is permitted under the comprehensive land use plan, but is an exceptionally dense development for such a small area of land. Now combine that with traffic concerns that you've got at the exit of the road there at 155, namely that big curve, and you've got also the ingress and egress to this subdivision is directly across the street from the northern exit of Ben Horton. It's going to make it very difficult to get in and out for everyone. Now, there's a couple of subdivisions that have been addressed in here. Notably, none of those include any of the subdivisions that have been there forever, such as Ben Horton, even though we're located right across the street. So it's a little bit of cherry picking the subdivisions that are being used, and I think that we would need a little bit more information to make, really an informed decision. But certainly, I think this would be appropriate for some conditions, such as if the net density is going to be 2.2, then we ought to specify a minimum lot size and not allow for this to basically end up being a packed-in tight subdivision. So with that, I'll yield the time to anybody else who may have some comments. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition of this case? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Somerville. I am a resident in the Town Square subdivision. And my concern is that my home currently is 3,300 square feet. And it would be a step down from what I'm hearing for the new houses that are going to be built. They're going to be in the range of 2,200 square feet. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. That was the maximum. Yes.
Yes, that's the maximum. So that's a part of my concern is that the houses are not in the same level or pace that is surrounding the area. And as to the question of being contacted by anyone as to get opinions or thoughts, to my knowledge, I have not been contacted in that regard. So that is my concern, those two things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Deborah McCrae, and I'm also a resident in the Town Square Drive neighborhood of the Heritage. I echo the concerns of Mr. Somerville. It's presented as a very dense neighborhood. Right now, Mr. Somerville mentioned his house being 3,300 square feet. My house is even a little bigger. It's all brick construction. And as the attorney prior, Mr. Warren mentioned, there's a big concern about additional congestion coming out on 155 and also our home values. If the homes are not going to be built consistent with homes that are already in the area, that is, it is a huge concern of the neighborhood. And again, finally, we would appreciate being consulted or informed or some of this information discussed with the homeowners association. Once that happens, the information is passed along to all of the homeowners within the neighborhood. We're a small neighborhood. We were very, very concerned about the condition of the neighborhood, what happens with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Reed Birch. I live at 140 Ben Horton Drive, neighborhood due east of this proposed development. I echo my neighbor's concerns as well. We were not contacted, that I know of. No one in my neighborhood was as well. My concerns are the same as what these folks have had. My house is about 3,300 square feet, four-side brick. But the concern I have is traffic. My mother-in-law and two of my kids were in a car accident. As you come around that corner right there on 155, people don't slow down. In fact, that entrance and exit to our neighborhood, ours is a horseshoe-shaped street that we have another exit due south of that, or entrance and exit to the neighborhood. People will actually avoid that side of the street to get in and out because of that curve, because of people coming down going south on 155, again, I have family members that were in an accident there with someone that didn't see stopped and tried to turn left into that street right there. But again, multiple people in my neighborhood avoid that entrance and exit just because of the bad intersection that it is, and I think that this would only add to that congestion and that safety concern. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of the case? You have 4 minutes. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of the case? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Corey Heiss. I live over in Ashley Oak subdivision, right down the street next to Ben Horton. It's I agree with everybody. It's not just the traffic and the curve, but it's also coming up over a slight hill. It's already hard to get around. If anybody that's on the street trying to turn into a subdivision, you already got other people flying around the side of the road just to get around them. It's already hard to go up and down the street. You add a bunch more packed in houses, more congestion, you're going to get more car accidents. So it's hard to drive up and down the road. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. If no one else is coming forward, does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? Yes, I do. Will the applicant come forward, please? Mr. Richard.
Yes, sir. Given the situation with the power line and the floodplains that makes part of this property maybe not as usable as you would like, although there are engineering techniques that could overcome some of that. But the situation as I see it, you have a nice subdivision right below it, which is zoned R3 for 18,000 square foot lots, 100-foot widths. How would you feel about amending your request to an R3 instead of R5?
R3, it significantly impacts the lot count because of the width of this property, and it really wouldn't make this project feasible to go with an R3.
Okay. All right, so you would not consider making an amendment to the R3, which would be like the subdivision right below you, Town Square Center.
If I went to an R3, I'd probably at least lose at a minimum 8 or 9 lots, and feasibility-wise, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, I want the board to please take in mind that, the highest and best use for this property is at medium density is 6 units per acre. And to get to 6 units an acre, I'd probably be looking at a townhome project. But I didn't propose a townhome project. I'm trying to propose something that'll make sense and kind of tie in with the entire surrounding area. As far as traffic and the ingress egress, that the site distance has already been approved, and the location would be across from Ben Horton Drive, and that's the only location that the entrance to the neighborhood could possibly go.
So you wouldn't consider any other zoning other than R5?
Yes, sir. I think that would make the lot count so low it just wouldn't make sense for the project. It would not work. But I think it would also deny the property owner their highest and best use of their land.
All right, thank you.
Ms. King.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Mr. Barr, go ahead.
How big are the lots?
The lots are 10,890 square feet.
Was that a quarter acre?
It's a little larger than a quarter acre, yes, sir.
Thanks.
I have a couple questions. One is, now, does that call for a decel lane on the?
My engineer got that cleared by DOT yesterday. I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure it's going to have it.
Do we know if there's a decel requirement there, Dante?
I have not gotten that update, but they will have to meet all DOT requirements, including ACL, DCL, et cetera, and road improvements along the right-of-way and frontage of that property, and that's part of the Highway Corridor Overlay District.
Okay. All right, one other question is that you've heard some of the concerns of the surrounding neighbors. Would you consider three-sided brick or a neighborhood that's conducive to your surrounding neighbors?
Yes, sir. I mean, I'm definitely amenable to, alter the facade and the home size a little bit. I do want to point out, just on the Heritage Ridge at Town Square, when that property was rezoned, it was conditioned to be 50% 2,000 and 50% 2,200. And like the residents said, they came in and built a bigger product, a larger home. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the same case here. Those were the minimums. And very rarely does a builder go in and build a minimum on every lot. So there is going to be a mixture of homes that would be much larger than the minimum at 2,200. If we need to bump that up, I'm amenable to that. I mean, I think I'd probably do a 2,400 square foot minimum as a minimum. And I'm sure that, every home is not going to be 2,400 square feet. You're going to get some that's going to be 3,000, 3,500, like in the neighboring neighborhood. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Well, just one question. Did you say you would not be interested in considering increasing the lot sizes?
Yes, sir. The way this property, the width of this property, the lot depth make it really tough. There's not really a lot I can do with the design. I can't redesign it because we can't change the lot width and the lot depth. So it makes this project feasibility not practical if I have to go with a larger lot.
It would be impractical if you reduce the number of lots by, say, maybe take out three lots?
3 lots would be possible, but 8 or 9, I mean, I can't do 8 or 9.
What's the maximum?
The maximum lot size?
No, the maximum number of lots you can reduce this by.
Mr. Carmichael, just to chime in a little bit, the number of lots allowed on the property will be subject to the limit of the density units per acre. So if they take this back to the engineer and they redraw this and replat this site to scale, we can't just say what the number will be. This has been drawn by an engineer. All we can say is you're capped at 6 units per acre. If there's floodplain, you can't include that in your net density. If there's, and you have to account for 15% of for sometimes deeding right-of-way, you have to back that out to get your net density. So the calculation that they have for R5 is probably pretty accurate. If you're considering R3, you have to take in consideration that the lot size will go from 10,890 minimum to 18,000 square feet lot size minimum. So you're going to lose more than just 2 or 3 lots, just off the top of my head.
Dante, I have a question for staff. Now, if it was going to R3, and he mentioned townhomes, at that point, would he be allowed to put townhomes in there or not?
R3 is single-family residence.
It's strictly single-family residential,
Yes.
right? Okay. All right. Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, you may be seated, sir. Okay. At this time, we'd like to call the case.
Case number RZ-18-25, Mandalay Properties of Cumming, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R5, single-family residence for property located on the west side of Highway 155, north of Town Square Drive and Land Lot 102 of the 7th District. The property consists of 17.9 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision. This property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve an R3 zoning and to deny R5.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion. Any discussion?
Did we request that it be 3-sided brick, or that's one of the conditions, or?
That was talked about, but that was not part of the motion. Okay. Any additional discussion? Okay. Would you like to make that part of your motion?
I'm sorry, what was the request?
The request was, we talked about a 3-sided brick. Was that something that you was?
Yes, I would. I'd like to make that part of the motion.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the motion. Are we comfortable with that, Mr. Barr, as a second?
Yes, still second.
A second. Any additional discussion? Okay. All in favor? 1, 2, 3.
Mr. Chair, I didn't see that vote clearly. I just saw one hand go up.
All in favor? 3 to 2. Okay, motion carries. Okay, call the next case, please.
Case number RZ-18-22, Builders Professional Group LLC of Jonesboro, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R2, single-family residence to sewer, single-family residence on sewer, so that's R2S, for property located at 728 Elliott Road in Land Lot 56 of the 7th District. The property consists of 87.29 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a residential subdivision. This property is located in Commission District 3, and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootsil, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. The subject property before you at this time is outlined in green. It's located on Elliott Road, just south of the intersection with Campground Road. The zoning of the subject property is RA. There's R1 property immediately to the south and R3 property to the south of that. The applicant is requesting R2 on sewer. Future land use map calls for low-density residential land uses in this area with a net density up to 2 dwelling units per acre. The applicant is requesting 1.9. dwelling units per acre. So the applicant's request is supported by the future land use map, and the aerial shows you an idea of the development in this area. The applicant is requesting a conservation subdivision. As a part of that process, the applicant has submitted what's called a yield plan. The yield plan is showing a conventional design that's appropriate for the R2 on sewer development standards, and the purpose of the yield plan is to ascertain the number of lots. So this yield plan would yield 130 lots. Going through the conservation subdivision process, which will be the subject of our next public hearing, which requires a conditional use, the applicant has submitted the conservation subdivision design, which allows the applicant, if they're approved for their conditional use, to group these lots together. The lot sizes would be smaller, but they wouldn't be required to extend the streets so far. So the developer can reduce the infrastructure, which is the length of the streets, the underground utilities, water, sewer, so forth, and preserve at least 40% open space. This public hearing is for the rezoning request to go from RA to R2. Staff is recommending approval with the 5 conditions in your exhibit books in the staff report. Staff also recommends an additional condition which would state the disturbed areas of any house lot shall be fully sodded except where landscaping is present or installed. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? Okay, if no questions, we'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening again. My name is Steve Moore, Moorbass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia, representing Builders Professional Group tonight. On the 2 applications that you have on your agenda, first the rezoning and secondly the conditional use request for the conservation subdivision. As Stacy mentioned, the yield plan that was submitted and that has been shown tonight is for 130 lots. The request for the conditional use for the conservation subdivision is the same exact number of lots. We've just basically taken the lot sizes down from 22,000 square feet to approximately 11,000 square feet and dedicated the balance of that property as open space for the community. There'll be a homeowner association that would own and maintain that, and the open space would be used to provide buffers against the neighboring properties. So there's a 100-foot buffer that's proposed, that's required and proposed along Elliott Road. There's a buffer along the property to the south that ranges from 100 to 200 feet in width. There's a 50-foot buffer on the northern property, and there's about 75 to 100-foot buffer here. And it offers lots of open space and areas for, like I said, passive recreation, trails, protection of natural resources. In addition, we will have some constructed amenities, most likely in this area right here as you enter the subdivision. The lot, so same number of lots. The lots are smaller in area. The conservation subdivision ordinance allows you to go down as low as 60 feet wide. We're proposing to go to 90 feet wide. That fits the building product that the applicant wants to put in the subdivision, which is side entry garages and a very nice building product that really requires a 90-foot lot to make the building product fit. And to the 100-foot buffers along Elliott Road, that's going to offer excellent screening from the road. By the time you take into consideration where the actual pavement is within the right-of-way of Elliott Road, and the rear setback of the homes, these houses will be, closer to 170 feet from the travel lane of the road. So with additional landscaping and entrance features, and those houses will be completely screened from the road. At this point, I'd like to introduce the builder and the applicant, and he can talk to you more about the building product that he's proposing within this project. So if I could, I'll ask Chris to come up and talk about that.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Chris Knight. I live at 118 Whitestone Drive, McDonough, Georgia. I'm a partner in the company Builders Professional Group. We also operate Knight Homes. Our office is in Jonesboro. I've been a resident of Henry County for 20 years. I've attended church in Henry County for 40 years. And of our 75 employees and realtors at Builders Professional Group and Knight Homes, about half of them live in Henry County, and we're proud of that. We're happy to be here. We enjoy being here. We're a local builder and developer, and we think that matters. Our project that we're presenting tonight is called Rowland Place. We've had the opportunity of working with the Rowland and Harrison families who've owned this land for many, many years. For about the past year, we think we have the best engineer in the business in Moore Bass. And we've hired a great landscape architect, Alex Brunson, a fellow that we've used on some other projects. We're working on one on Hampton Locust Grove Road now, our Bill Gardner Parkway called Kingston that was closed down neighborhood that we've resurrected. He did the entrance design and landscape design for us there, and it's going to be fabulous. Throughout this process, we reached out to the community directly to the south of our property. As you can tell from the aerial, they have large lots and large homes. Some of the homes in there are over $1 million. It's a fabulous neighborhood. It's a fabulous area. We reached out to them early and had several meetings and sought to find some common ground whereby we could get an agreement with them. We were able to do that primarily because we were willing to dedicate so much open space and buffers along their property line. And then in addition to that, they asked for some fencing, which we were happy to include as well. After that, we had a community reception a couple of weeks ago. We had probably 30 or 40 people come out from that neighborhood. We had it over at Salem Baptist Church in their rock building. We had some display. We had displays of some of what you've seen here tonight and some other things. And we were there from 5 to 8, so we tried to start early and stay until everybody could get off of work and stop by. We had a great time meeting people, talking to people, listen to their concerns as well. And we know we're not going to be able to satisfy everybody's concerns, but we think we're compromising. We're trying to do a good job of presenting a great project. We think this neighborhood, in my opinion, it will be one of the most thoughtful, well-designed, highest quality neighborhoods approved in Henry County if it has the opportunity to get approved in a long time. We're excited about it. In addition to that, as you know, we have the recommendation of approval by the staff. We're fine with the conditions that they have recommended. And with that, we want you to know we love it here. We're excited to be here. And we respectfully ask for your support in approving our zoning and also our conditional use application. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything additional, Mr. Moore? Okay. Does the board have questions for the applicant?
I have a question for staff. Now, again, this is a two-part request. The first being the rezoning request to R2S, and the second being a conditional use request for a conservation subdivision, as described. Now, please tell us again what the R2S consists of, since this is the first phase of the hearings tonight.
Yes, sir. So the development standards for R2S calls for a 22,000 square foot minimum, which is right around a half an acre. It's the largest lot size that one can request and still take advantage of the fact that the sewer service is required for this site. The only purpose is to inform this yield plan, which gives the number of lots, which would then be applied to the conservation subdivision.
Now, the R2S, as you say, it's the largest lot that's on sanitary sewer. And so where is the closest, sewer line to serve this property? As I
Yes, sir.
understand, there are state laws and our own water authority rules and regulations involved that indicate a development such as a subdivision or a commercial development, if it's within 2,000 feet of a sewer line, that you have to connect.
Yes, sir. So the subdivision here to the south of the adjacent subdivision is an R3. These lot sizes would require sewer, so it's obvious that these lots have sewer. It's my understanding that the lots on the south side of this private drive may also have sewer as well. So the sewer would be coming from the south across the property of the development immediately to the south, and I'm sure that our applicant could provide more detail.
Yeah, the sewer is basically.
All right, well, and I'm sure that when those lots were built, that being that they were part of a development, even though they were quite large, they had to connect, to the sewer system by state law. And I think that subdivision is limited by action of the Board of Commissioners quite some time ago to no more than 16 lots.
Yes, sir, that's my understanding as well.
Okay, so this board could take action on the R2S, and yet it could not take an approval action if it wanted to on the next phase of the hearing process tonight.
Yes, sir, that is very conceivable. What I would recommend is that if that's the pleasure of the board, that the conditions that you recommend are for a conventional subdivision layout, and to keep that in mind as well.
Right, so what we're hearing at this phase is a recommendation for conditions for the rezoning for R2S only.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. Will the proposed project have a homeowners association?
Yes, sir.
And are you willing to make that one of the conditions
Yes, sir.
of approval?
And that's also a requirement, although that's not what we're talking about this second, but on the conservation subdivision, one of the requirements is that the open space is owned and maintained by a homeowner association or some other legal entity capable of maintaining that.
Anything else, Mr. Carter?
Yes, I have one more question. On Elliott Road, there is a lot which is, where there is a single-family home. I think if you could point to it, what might be done to protect or buffer, that?
Well, in addition to the 50-foot buffer that's shown on the conservation subdivision plan, the applicant's been in touch with the owner and are in discussions on what type of fence, but we've agreed to put a fence up around the perimeter of his site as it abuts us. And that would be, again, in addition to the 50-foot buffer that's already proposed with the layout here. So it's actually a lot more than 50 feet. It's only 50 feet on the narrowest side.
All right. We're working with them to have some decorative type security fence.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would that apply, to the R2S zoning as well, if it's zoned and?
I think it's most appropriate to include that for the rezoning as a condition on the rezoning, because otherwise if the applicant's approved for his conservation subdivision, he would have that rather large buffer, and perhaps the fence wouldn't otherwise be necessary.
But we are willing to, under either scenario, we would be willing to put the fence in.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions?
Yes. Probably in here I missed it, sorry. The lot size, how big are they?
On this size, this on the conservation layout, they are 10,890 square foot minimum. And again, that minimum width as described by the code is 60 feet wide, but we're taking them to 90 feet wide. So that allows us to reduce the depth of the lot, which allows us to further enhance the buffers around the perimeter of the site.
Okay, so roughly a quarter an acre.
Yes, sir, as a minimum.
Mr. Carmichael, one last question. Are any of the other subdivisions in the area gated communities?
Don't think so. Except for the Hudgens community directly to the south of us. That's the only one I'm aware of.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The resident that already lives on the front side of that?
Yes, sir.
You were speaking of placing some type of amenity there. What type of amenity would you be placing between their home and those lots there?
Yes, sir. We've got a picture we'll show you. Yeah. Upside down there. So that would be one of the features. So it wouldn't be your traditional swim, tennis, playground, but more of an outdoor living area, barbecue pits, community fire grill area, outdoor pavilion, that type of amenity. Park benches, seating, paved areas for what you see in the picture here.
Okay.
But heavily landscaped as well.
And that buffer would include those trees and along with the fencing that
Yes.
you mentioned before?
This would be placed outside of any of the buffers and fences. This would be well outside of that.
Okay. Could you put the other overlay that you had, the one before that one? Yeah. Okay. What's that all the way to the, is that part of that subdivision that goes back to the top right there also?
Yes, sir. That's a floodplain and a creek. And under this plan, we would cross that creek with a road, and we would add however many lots there is over there. 2, 4,
Okay.
5.
Is there a dam in that creek
No,
there,
sir.
or-
No, it's a free-flowing
just
stream.
Just a small creek?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And just for comparison purposes, this is just kind of a side-by-side, if that fit on there. It just communicates same piece of property, same scale, and just the difference between the two layouts. But again, I think the takeaway could be the width of the lots, which is really what's going to drive the type of house that can be placed on these lots. You heard in previous applications tonight even that you can't put a side entry garage on a 75-foot wide lot or a 60-foot wide lot. And 80 is about the break even where you can start to do that. 90 is more than adequate to do it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Would you ascertain bigger lots? I mean, would you consider that?
In the conservation, the 22,000 square foot lots, I don't know that we could go any bigger than that. That's a pretty large lot. It's bigger than R3, which is the subdivision that's one subdivision or two subdivisions south of us, Garden Gate. It is, the next largest, I guess the next largest zoning past R2 on sewer. But we've been discussing some adjusted lot sizes in the conservation subdivision option.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, you may be seated, sir. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case.
10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ben Harrison. I live in Allendale, South Carolina, 1231 15 Mile Landing Road. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight on behalf of the Rowland family, which is the owners of the property. My name is Ben Harrison. I'm one of 10 grandchildren of William and Irene Rowland. My grandfather bought this property in the mid-1940s from his father-in-law, and our family records indicate that great-grandfather purchased it in 1913. This property is our family heirloom, our sacred ground. Our family lineage represents some of the early founders of Henry County, the Greens, the Knights, the Elliots, and in fact, as y'all know, this property is on Elliott Road. Pawpaw was a farmer and a carpenter with a 7th grade education, and Granny was the youngest of 13 children and managed to get through high school. They worked hard to buy this property and build a home and raise 3 children, and it's affectionately known as Granny and Pawpaw's place to all its grandchildren. It breaks our hearts to sell this property that is so beloved to our family. We've done the best to maintain it over the years since their deaths of our grandparents, but time and elements have taken a toll. Our situation is not unlike many families that inherit family farms. Eventually, it's no longer feasible to try to keep it whole, and so you make the gut-wrenching decision to sell. My mom and uncle are 88 and 90. You can still go by there some days and see them cutting grass and raking leaves. This is a loved piece of property. All these years, they have continued to pay taxes, pay insurance, provide upkeep on the buildings, and bearing the constant stress and worry of the inevitable deterioration. I suspect if you own property in Henry County, it was once a family farm also. So what do we do with this heirloom? The only thing we can do is sell it. We were approached by Builders Professional Group, Knight Homes, and they made us an offer, and we came to terms and began the process over a year ago. I've been in the home building business myself for 30 years in South Carolina, and I've been charged by the family to try to guide us through the process. And prior to signing the contract, we did our due diligence. We wanted a buyer that was professional, built quality product, had integrity, and a company that was financially strong enough to take this community from beginning to end. I met with Chris and Jay Knight, and through the process have gotten to know and trust them. I spent quite a bit of time learning about their company. I walked dozens of their homes, invested time in numerous of their communities. It's a family business started by 2 brothers in the 1970s. Since then, they developed 40 communities and built over 7,000 homes. They won numerous awards for quality and service and were recently named the 2018 Home Builder of the Year for Greater Atlanta Home Builder Association. We chose Knight Homes because we felt they were a company that shared our family values, that would treat our heirloom with the respect it deserves. We requested that the name of the community in honor of our family be called Rowland Place. They agreed without hesitation. Throughout this process, they've been open and honest with the family and have worked diligently to accommodate the request and address the concerns of the planning and zoning, the staff, and the board. In closing, I appreciate your time, and on behalf of the Rowland family, we would like to support the rezoning request we have before you today. Thank you.
We have additional time for anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the case. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Please state your name and address for the record.
Chairman Nelson, Board of Commissioners, Board members, my name is Charles Downey. I live at 557 Heathmore Drive, McDonough, Georgia. Further clarification for the adjacent property south on the property line. This subdivision, this is a private subdivision built by Hudgens. It is zone R1, built out as RA, containing 191 acres with 15 lots. Within this subdivision, there are 2 large lots on sewer. Per the county records, one of them is on 2.19 acres, with a house size of 5,215 square feet, fair market value of $730,000, built in 2016, while the other lot is size 3.5 acres House size is 3,874. Fair market value is 740,000. Built in 2005. My point: large lots on sewer will sell. Interesting that no one mentioned the adjacent property, northeast corner of the subject property, where the future right-of-way extension of Campground Road will be reserved for the future. This piece of property is Fairhaven subdivision, zone RA, with 1 acre lots. Per county records, the size of the homes range from 2,600 square feet to 5,700 square feet. The fair market value of the homes range from $355,000 to $700,000. This past January, there were only 3 lots left. My point: large lots sell in the Elliott Road community. As mentioned, about 4/10 of a mile south of this property is Garden Gate subdivision, zone R3 on sewer, with minimum lot size, as mentioned, 18,000 square feet, with a minimum space, heated space for houses ranging from 3,000 to 4,300 square feet of heated space. The fair market value range from $282,000 to $413,000. They failed to mention that this subdivision is well designed. What I mean by that, the lots are wide, and most homes have large open space behind them, which give them the appearance of large lots. My point: open space behind homes will give the rural character appearance. Please help keep our Elliott Road community rural in character by increasing the house size and lot sizes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have 6 minutes left for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Good morning. Teresa Smith, and I live in that Fairhaven subdivision at 329 Noah Place. Not opposed to having new things. A lot on Elliott Road. There's already a lot on Elliott Road. It's a 2-lane road. If you leave from Fairhaven, you have the option to go either toward East Lake, which has major congestion. The schools there, the Union Grove school compounds, has trailers now. We add another 130 families to Elliott Road. 2-lane road. Campground Road has, where it intersects Elliott, has 1 stop sign. It's on a curve at a hill right just north of where this subdivision would be coming in. If you go the other way, there's congestion toward McDonough, obviously. It's a 2-lane road, so what I care about more than I care a lot about the houses and the size and the density and for the area, but very much about what the plans are for the traffic. The East Lake Road, and with the new development that's happening right next to Union Grove High School, and not understanding what the plans are, what the county's got planned for managing the traffic and the congestion, Elliott Road related in general.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Page. I'm with the Garden Gate Estates Association, and I'm at 267 Fanning Lane, and I'm in definite opposed the conditions that any additional building by Knight Construction, as he has not completed or cleaned up his messes at the Garden Gate Estates that he has created over the 4 years that he has created the new homes that he's built. We've got a yard which is sitting there. That is half of a backyard that is supposed to be sodded by the not by the homeowners, but by the builder, but the builder decided to leave it as a drainage ditch. Instead, there is a 4-foot drain that comes across their property and then goes into our local pond. Again, our local pond now is half filled with silt that we've asked to have it dredged by Knight Construction, and they refuse to do so. I've gotten a half offer by Knight Construction, but yet it seems nothing can be done by the county to get these issues cleaned up. And I've been to every board member, every county individual, and to issue a building permit for him to continue up on a hill that's going to have silt and everything else run downhill and not controlled would totally detriment anything that he's building. So I am firmly against anything to be done up on that hill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have approximately 3.5 minutes.
But I've got 120 some odd photos I can give you of the other incidences that occurred at our association, at our area that was developed by him. And I'd like to present those to you so you can view them yourselves.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Chair and Board. My name is Russell Smith. I live at 559 Heathmore Drive in McDonough in the Emerald Plantation subdivision. I currently serve on the Homeowners Association Board as well. I'll cut a few of my points out since we're running short on time. I'd like to address a couple of safety issues. The Elliott Road, as most of you are aware, is not a local roadway. It has the appearance of such, but it's definitely a connector road between Georgia 20 and 155. A lot of heavy traffic there, and then the schools on on East Lake, a lot of heavy traffic for that as well. The line of sight for the two entrances to this development is going to be very limited. And acceleration lanes and deceleration lanes will help in certain turn issues, but if you're turning left out of the subdivision or left into the subdivision, a center turn lane would almost definitely be required, but in this particular case, it'd be difficult for it to be installed in that particular area. The 11 additional classrooms that are proposed from the effect of the development on the East Lake schools, it would require modular schoolrooms to be installed. This is a safety issue from the aspect of severe weather coming in. We know that these buildings are not nearly as stable as a bricked schoolroom, and then God forbid if an act of violence occurred, these little buildings are like cardboard boxes. It is palatable to hear that that we got a 1.91 density, but when you group all the houses together on a quarter-acre land, that's not in keeping with the character of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have 1 minute, 15, roughly 1 minute, 19 seconds. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Go ahead, sir.
I'm Don Dunlap from 192 Ashley Drive in McDonough. I'm just a business teacher, so I didn't know what a conservation subdivision was. I looked it up in the Unified Land Development Code in Section 6, and it says that when we do the calculation for this plan, that we can't include slopes over 25%, we can't include anticipated right-of-way needs for roads and utilities, but I'm upside down. So in the circled area there, you can see that Campground Road is going to be extended all the way over to Airline Road. And that's going to be an arterial. You need 100 feet right-of-way, and I don't see where that right-of-way has been included, but in the planning and zoning documents, it does say that they are aware of that. So I'm just thinking that maybe we're getting the cart in front of the horse by even trying to rezone, because there's no engineering that shows how that extension is going to be constructed. So you can't compute that yield.
Thank you, sir. All right. At this time, does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? Mr. Richard, will the applicant come forward, please?
Well, this was Mr. Knight, I think the issue about the erosion control in the subdivision where the gentleman who spoke has been brought up. We'd like to see you have some corrective action immediately, and Mr. Chairman, I would like to have the planning director get with the building inspection department with your authorization to have the situation inspected and taken care of promptly.
Mr. Richard, Chair's authorization is not needed. I'm authorized by the Unified Land Development Code, so I can touch base with the building department tomorrow and check on that.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any additional questions for?
Do you have a response to that?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Risher, we have no problems with that. We would gladly invite county inspectors out, and if there are any deficiencies noted, we'll be glad to take care of them. I would like to point out a couple of things. Mr. Page and I know each other. We built homes in the neighborhood where he's the president of the HOA for several years. Had several conversations and several meetings. We were not the developer at Garden Gate, nor did we build the majority of the homes. There is a small lake in the middle of the neighborhood. We built the last 28 lots out of, I believe there's around 60 in that neighborhood. And so with regards to silt in the lake, it would certainly be our position that we think a lot of that could have been caused before we got there. However, in talking to Mr. Page, we did offer to contribute. He said that they had already planned some dredging. We said that we would gladly contribute toward that. He never got back with me with an amount, and that offer still stands. So we invite the inspectors out, and if and when the HOA decides that they would like to do cleanup in their lake, we stand ready to honor the word that we gave him.
Who was the original developer? Do you know?
Tom Gaby, and Manor Homes built the homes prior to our entering the neighborhood. Thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, you may be seated, sir. Any additional questions for staff? If not, call the case, please.
Case number RZ-18-22, Builders Professional Group LLC of Jonesboro, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R2S, single-family residence on sewer for property located on at 728 Elliott Road in land lot 56 of the 7th District. The property consists of 87.29 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a residential subdivision. This property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootseal, Chief Planner.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the request for an R2S with all of the staff conditions, and I'd appreciate it if the staff could put those conditions on the board. But I would like to also add one that the minimum heated floor area for homes be 2,800 square feet.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Motion is denied. All opposed? It's 2-3, Dante. Okay. Okay. Call the next case, please.
Case number CU 18-14 Builders Professional Group LLC of Jonesboro, Georgia, request a conditional use for property located at 728 Elliott Road in land lot 56 of the 7th District. The property consists of 87.29 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a conservation subdivision. This property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rusil, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. This subject property is the same as the previous hearing. The request is for a conditional use approval for a conservation subdivision. The layout that's in your exhibit books and that's on the overhead is based upon a zoning of R2S. And your recommendation, there was not a recommendation for the R2S from the previous hearing. I would like to state for the record that an applicant can request a conditional use approval for a conservation subdivision for any of our single-family residential districts. So I think it's appropriate to go forward with this hearing for a recommendation, actually for a decision, because this board makes decisions regarding conditional use requests. Again, the nature of the conditional use for conservation is that there would be a yield plan that is based upon a conventional subdivision design that could actually be built. In other words, it's not just little squares packing in the boundaries of the subject property, but rather they are actual streets, street sizes, the widths of the zoning district, which is your base, and then the purpose of that yield plan is to determine the number of lots. And then that number of lots would be applied to the conservation plan, which is an alternative type of subdivision design. The minimum lot size in this case could be 10,890. The minimum lot width could be 60 feet. The required minimum of open space is 40%. And there are other requirements as well, such as perimeter buffers, such as buffers along the main street, and so forth. So in that vein, staff has evaluated the applicant's request, and we do recommend approval of the applicant's request for a conservation subdivision, and our recommendation for approval is for any residential zoning district. And I would be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? Okay. If not, we'd like to call the applicant forward. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Steve Moore, Moorbas Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Representing the applicant on the conditional use request for the conservation subdivision. And regardless of the outcome of the vote, we would still like to proceed with this request. We still think it's a valid use. And I think rather than representing what we've already talked about, I mean, we've communicated the buffers, but maybe just spend some time talking about the first gentleman, Mr. Downey, who spoke about the quality of Garden Gate compared to this subdivision. And I happen to have designed Garden Gate 15 some odd years ago. Those lot sizes are 100 feet wide. What we were asking for on this plan is 90 feet wide. You're not going to tell the difference driving down the street of a 100-foot lot or a 90-foot wide lot. The same product he's proposing to build is going to be, I would say, at or superior to anything surrounding him, with the exception of the large lot subdivision that is adjacent to him. Mr. Downey also said that one of the quality pieces about that property was the fact that it had open space behind the lots that made the lots look like they were more rural in nature. This plan is pretty clear. What we're asking, I mean, the buffer requirements in and of themselves, to have a 200-foot green belt behind your property, that gives a pretty rural feel, if that's the measure that we're against. Traffic, obviously, everybody knows traffic is a challenge. It comes up every single time we have one of these meetings. We know that we have to do the studies. We know that we have to concede to whatever those studies require, plus whatever Henry County DOT requires. We're fully prepared to do that. At that point, I think, like I said, I think we've talked about the plan enough. We are still excited about, having the opportunity to do this project in this capacity. And at this point, I'm happy to answer any additional questions you might have regarding this application.
Okay. Does the board have questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, you may be seated, sir. At this time, we would like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. No one's coming forward. We would like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record.
Brad Brownlee, 520 Heathmore Drive, McDonough, Georgia. I'd like to hand out the Homeowners Association
Position, official position.
the position of the Homeowners Association for Emerald Plantation homeowners.
Can I bring this forward to give you one?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
You can proceed, sir. We are.
Those were all emailed to you back in January, whenever the first one was. I'm Brad Brownlee. I live at 520 Heathmore Drive. I'm currently the president of the Emerald Plantation Homeowners Association. Thank you for your time to listen to the local homeowners about the property being considered for rezoning. We, along with Crown Springs, Fairhaven, and Garden Gate, are wonderful subdivisions. My concern on the zoning is keeping with the rural character set forth in the county land use. Quality home on larger lots seemed to be a big seller. The original map that was used to get up to 160 lots, 130 lots, if you look at it in the floodplain, they have lots that are like half in the floodplain. I don't think that can be used for generating the lot size, the lot number for this subdivision. You can see the lots over there by the floodplain that, to me, they look like they're half flooded. I don't think there's enough information on that to see that all the county ordinances are being met by the 100-year floodplain. The 30-foot setbacks, which as I've been told would be for the houses, are not enough to park in the driveway and not block a sidewalk for the, don't know if it meets the compliance with the federal ADA mandates to be able to get down the sidewalk if you're in a wheelchair or with a walker. The handouts explain the position of the HOA board. Due to the time constraints to advertise and have a HOA meeting, I would like to see the board consider all or some of these considerations. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
John Page again from Garden Gate Estates. And I would like to give you each a copy of a disc that was made up. Photographs of our development, other than left. Next construction. One of the items I'm totally opposed of is that nobody's considering the traffic flow that's right now going through Campground and Elliott. Previously, from the last 10 years, there has been 146 accidents reported at the intersection of Elliott and Turner Church. They've just completed the opening of the upper side of Elliott. Within the first week, there are 3 accidents there because of the volume of traffic that goes across that area. If this development were to be built, one of the things I know that you don't consider is traffic, but as far as traffic lighting should be done somewhere within the county's control to control the traffic that's going that direction. In the next month, they're going to close the bridge on Elliott Road. There's going to be 47 buses routed each day picking up kids back and forth across Elliott, Turner, and back onto 20. Okay? That's an accident waiting to happen. Okay? And then you're going to have an additional group of 130 homes with more buses traveling that same route. You're going to have an accident where sooner or later there's going to be a bus, school bus, full of kids, broadsided. The speed limit exceeds the national average for that safe curve at Elliott Road and Route 20. That needs to be adjusted and changed immediately before any consideration of building additional homes. If you allow this to be built, you are doing nothing but creating one monstrosity of an accident waiting to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Teresa Smith, again from Fairhaven, 329 Noah Place. Changing the size of the lots doesn't change any of the other issues that obviously that we as citizens and as residents off of Elliott Road are all concerned about. It's the same issues for the schools. It's the same issues for those temporary classrooms for the trailers. It's the same issues for the traffic on Eastlake, the traffic coming off of Campground onto Elliott Road, and the traffic on the 2-lane road for Elliott. So changing this to not build houses on the floodplain or the wetlands doesn't really change any of the other infrastructure issues that we're concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Russell Smith. I'm 559 Heathmore Drive in Emerald Plantation. Just a couple of points for the conditional use. I would ask the board to please be sure that we are not calculating wetland, floodplain, or road extension property into the calculations for the conservation development. Additionally, should this be approved, I'm asking the board if, when we do the traffic study, to be sure that there's a bridge in place on Elliott Road when the study is done. And hopefully we could do it while school is in session. The bridge is in process of being replaced, so a proper traffic study can't be done while the traffic's been detoured away from Elliott Road. It needs to be while traffic's on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 3 minutes, 30 seconds.
I'm Charles Downey, live at 557 Heathmore Drive, McDonough, Georgia. Thank you, Chairman Nicholson and members letting us speak. In the conservation ordinance, how was the minimum lot size of 10,890 square feet calculated? I don't know, but if someone knows, please correct me if I'm wrong. Prior to the ULDC, the minimum lot size on sewer was 18,000 square feet. Take 60% of that equals to 10,800 square feet. Nowadays, the minimum lot size on sewer is 22,000 square feet. Take 60% of that, you come up with 13,200 square feet. My point, the minimum lot size should be increased to at least 13,200 square feet. The Knight Homes have proposed an average minimum lot size that you already heard, 90 feet by 125 feet, for a total of 11,250 square feet, which does not help in maintaining the rural character of the community. However, in my opinion, the conservation subdivision should have a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet, so it will be comparable to the Hudgens subdivision adjacent to the south and the Fairhaven subdivision to the north. Also, I want to point out on the south property line right here, as mentioned, the buffer is 100 feet wide, while on the north side is 50 feet wide. If the conservation subdivision is approved and the campground road extension is built, the homeowners on the north side will need a larger buffer. It seems like it's not balanced out. Plus, as the engineer pointed out, there are lots around the edge here that has open space in the rear, but look at all the lots in the middle. Those lots do not have any open space in the middle, behind them, I should say. And so remember, large lots can have sewer and they will sell. And I ask you to increase the lot size to 30,000 square feet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have about 30 seconds remaining for anyone wishing to give their name.
It's Greg Moss. I live in the house that the subdivision is surrounding. And I would like to clarify one thing, that I was contacted by them about 5:30 tonight for about 2 or 3 minute conversation. So it wasn't like we were discussing anything. It was just a very, very, very small conversation. It wasn't like they made it out to be. But
thank you, Mr. Moore. We're exhausted out of time now.
Oh, it's over with? Okay.
Yes, yes.
I did want to tell y'all that.
All right, thank you very much. All right. At this time, we'd like to, does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. I'd like the applicant to come forward, please. You've heard some of the concerns. Do you have any concerns or any recourse to what we've heard tonight?
Yeah, I'll address a couple of the items if I could. The question about the lots being calculated in the floodplain, there's nothing in Henry County's ordinance that says that you can't use floodplain on lots. You can't have it on your lot in a conservation subdivision, but you can in a traditional R2, R3 subdivision, R2S like we're proposing. So that's not an issue, and that's an acceptable method for doing the yield plan, which is what the intent of this map was. As far as the traffic calculations and traffic counts being done while the bridge is closed, I think that makes sense. If we felt comfortable moving forward, we would probably go ahead and advance those studies now before the bridge closes and get those numbers while kids are in school, while the bridge is open, and have that number, and we can apply some kind of factor to it as to account for any potential population growth that happens over the next 8 or 9 months or however long the bridge is going to be out. But, you know, again, obviously only if this was to move forward. As far as wetland areas in the calculations, I mean, we've followed the rules on the conservation plan as far as the preservation of the primary open space, which requires 25% slopes greater than 6,000 square feet of contiguous area plus wetlands plus floodplain, and that has been provided. Regarding the buffer question about why is it 50 feet on one side and 100 to 200 feet on the other side, is a simple fact of there's an existing developed subdivision to the south and there isn't one to the north. And again, based on what I know this board does and the Board of Commissioners, there'll be a buffer that'll be applied to that project when and if it ever develops. And so that was the reason. We're basing it on existing land uses that need to be protected right now, and still a 50-foot vegetated buffer is still an adequate buffer. And that is what is required by the Conservation Subdivision Ordinance. Anything you got in particular?
Yeah, if I could just clear up a few things, comment on some of the comments that were made. I'd like to start with Mr. Downey's comments about Fairhaven. He said the minimum square footage at Fairhaven was 2,600 square feet. Of course, Mr. Risher recommended 2,800 square feet in the previous hearing, which we would not have a problem with. He also mentioned that the prices at Fairhaven were $355 to $700. Our typical answer when people ask us what the prices of homes are going to be is as much as we can sell them for, and what the market will pay. But quite frankly, and we've expressed this to everyone involved, we expect, based on today's market, these houses would be in the mid-3s to the mid-400s, which is very consistent with most of what is on the road and in the neighborhood. The comment was made about Garden Gate and open space. Garden Gate, as Steve designed it, and we built the last 28 homes, does not have any open space around the perimeter lots. That was a little bit of a misrepresentation. It does have an open space in the middle where there's a pond that is also used as a detention area. It was actually designed to serve as detention for the neighborhood. Another thing about Garden Gate with regards to open space is that pond area makes up about 18% of the property. We've actually proposed 47% of our property as open space, so more than double the open space that Mr. Downey likes over at Garden Gate. We've incorporated into our design. In addition, the houses at Garden Gate he mentioned were 283,000 to 413,000. Again, we're at 350 to 450, exceeding the numbers that he gave. And then the neighborhood down the street, while it's a beautiful neighborhood, Emerald Plantation, the values of this neighborhood would exceed most of the values there in that neighborhood as well. So just, and the last thing, with regards to the Campground Road extension, there's a lot of speculation with regards to that. My understanding is that is a long-range plan that has received no funding whatsoever, and the staff has actually recommended that we set aside that right-of-way area up in the green space as a condition of approval, which the green space actually allows for that. The comment about the 50-foot buffer and those people needing additional land for that right-of-way is not necessary, because the Campground Road extension is actually north of that on the parcel that is not part of this parcel. So part of that extension would be off of our land on a piece of property that we do not have a contract on. It's not the Harrison Rowland property. And the part that would be on the land in the back, if and when that extension ever is funded and happens, would be accommodated in the green space. And the last thing I'd like to mention with regards to the bridge being out and traffic is it takes at least a year to engineer and develop a new home subdivision. So I don't know when the bridge is going to go out of commission or when it's going to, how long it's going to take. But if we started tomorrow with engineering, we would not be starting construction on houses for about a year. Houses take 4 to 6 months to build. We probably would not be having the first homeowner move in until about 18 months from now. And I don't know the schedule of the bridge, but based on what I've heard, it sounds like it may be imminent and completed prior to our first resident moving in, even though that's not something we have any control over or real knowledge about. That's the timeline that we would expect.
Thank you. I have a question. Could you comment on Mr. Downey's request that lot sizes be increased to 30,000 square feet?
That would not be viable on this project. What we could do is this. We could honor the width of the lots at Garden Gate, which are 100 feet wide, and we could increase our lot size up to an average square footage of 16,000 square feet. That would allow us to still achieve 40% green space, and as mandated by the conservation overlay, and keep our yield at a number that would be economically viable. And I think that's about a 40-something% increase over the 10,980 that was shown on the application.
Any additional questions? Okay. You may be seated, sir. Any additional questions for staff? Okay. If not, call the case, please.
Case number CU-18-14, Builders Professional Group, LLC of Jonesboro, Georgia, request a conditional use for property located at 728 Elliott Road in land lot 56 of the 7th District. The property consists of 87.29 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a conservation subdivision. This property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootsil.
Heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, but can I ask a question of the staff first before I make it?
Yes, please.
Since the rezoning was denied, if this request for the conditional use were to be denied, would they have to wait a year to reapply, or would that only apply if they were turned down by the Board of Commissioners?
Mr. Richard, the rezoning request was only recommended to be denied by the zoning advisory board. So now, staff has to take a staff recommendation of approval and a zoning advisory board recommendation of denial to the Board of Commissioners, who have the final say. That decision is strictly up to the Board of Commissioners, and it could be an approval or a denial. So tonight's recommendation is just that, a recommendation of denial. If the conditional use is approved, that grants them the conservation subdivision conditional use that's needed in order for them to proceed with that. If they were to develop it as it is right now, they would be limited to the current zoning district or the underlying zoning district for their lot yield. Once it makes it to the Board of Commissioners, if they were to approve it as an R2S, then the lot yield would be subject to whatever the underlying zoning district is at that time. If they add additional conditions, they will also be subject to that as well.
Well, I think that, since the citizens spoke on the first request, the rezoning, and then this is essentially the same plan, that was discussed at that time, I just feel that maybe we should deny this request as well, and so I make a motion to deny it.
Have a motion? I second. Have a second. All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Call the next case, please.
Case number VR-19-01, Joanne Tim of Hampton, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 504 Bethel View Drive in land lot 141 of the 3rd District. The property consists of 1.104 plus or minus acres, and the request is to permit an existing building to store vehicles. This property is located in Commission District 2 and will be presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair and board members.
Good evening.
The variance request is for a property located at 504 Bethel View Drive, as highlighted in green in your exhibit books and seen on the overhead. The applicant is requesting a variance to utilize an existing accessory structure. According to the survey, there are 3 accessory structures, and the total of all 3 accessory structures exceed the allowable size of 50% of the heated square footage of the primary dwelling. Staff recommends denial for the request to allow the total square footage of the accessory structure to exceed 50% of the heated square footage of the primary dwelling. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have questions for staff?
So these are already existing structures?
Yes.
They're already up?
Yes.
How did that happen? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, I do have one question. Now, how did this come before staff? Did the applicant just come in here, or was he, what happened? Is he requesting was he looking for a permit, or what happened?
I believe he was cited by code enforcement.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. All right. Any additional questions? If not, will the applicant come forward, please? Please state your name and address for the record.
Bethelview Drive in Hampton.
Okay.
Chair and board, thank you for your hearing tonight. I can address your first question of how did the building come into existence. Several years ago, my father-in-law passed away, and we inherited several vehicles. And they're not just vehicles you drive every day. We have a 23 Ford, a 41 Chevy, and a 75 Corvette. After his passing and we inherited the vehicles, they've been in a restoration facility under maintenance. And now it's time for the vehicles to come home. So we put up a building to host 3 vehicles. It wasn't planned that we were going to have them, but now that we do. So we had put that building up. We failed to ask for a permit, and then one day Mr. Christensen came by because our neighbor called it in that there was a building went up, and he had to give me a citation. So in order to avoid the citation, it was recommended that I ask for a variance. And so I went to the variance people and I went through the process and we did the septic and everything. What I want to say about this building is that even though we don't have an HOA, we color matched that as close as we could to everything else on the property. It sits back as far in the property as it can. As you note, we have over an acre of property to work with. It's got a borderline on the back side from the other neighbors behind us of a tree line, and on the side is a tree line where renters are. So it doesn't seem to be in anybody's way or anything else. I did provide pictures. I'm not so sure if they're in your packet. It's not just a structure that went up. The structure is nice looking. It can be in any neighborhood. And that's how that came into existence. And I really would appreciate your consideration in giving us the request that for the building variance.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, we have pictures, but do you have pictures? Additional pictures?
No, I provided pictures in my packet, so I didn't bring any more.
Okay.
I guess I didn't realize I should.
So I'm making the assumption that when the building was constructed, it was not permitted?
No, I didn't get a permit. Okay. I guess that I didn't know that I needed a permit. I guess when we put up the other building, the builder had gotten the permit. And so I wasn't involved in that and didn't realize I needed a permit. I see buildings a lot go up and don't ask people if they have permits. So I just miscued on that whole process.
You hired someone to build it for you?
It was brought in. It's what I want to call it, a prefab, and they yes, it was hired up.
Okay.
Which one is it?
The one with the,
I'm going back to, it'd be really great if you had pictures of it.
I'm sorry.
the property with the dot on it. That is the accessory structure that caused for the variance to come into play.
Do you have the pictures in your packet?
No. I didn't have those pictures.
I have them on my phone. I can show them to you on my phone if you want to see the building.
Yeah, if you can
Okay.
do that quickly, that'd be helpful. Sure.
I don't know that I can put it on there. Can I just bring it?
Sure.
I was thinking they could put them on the camera.
Oh,
there, but-
can they be shown? Can she put that on the screen? Will it show up?
It may show up.
If you want to try it, that's fine. Yeah. You have to have the concrete cord as well.
Screen is
If you
active.
want to try. Yeah.
Jewel, would
She'll
you
help
assist her, please?
You had to have the concrete poured as well? The concrete
The
was there?
concrete was already there. That was in, and it was probably in the latest aerial view you have. We pulled it up when I was over in code enforcement.
How did your concrete, when you built the building, then you poured the concrete?
No, the concrete has been there for a while. We have several trailers because we have show cars. And so we have trailers to haul the cars on. And we have a Harley, so we have a Harley trailer that's enclosed. So we already had a concrete pad to set the trailers on, so they weren't sitting off in the sod. And again, behind that building is a tall tree line of all the pine trees that have grown up.
Do you have pictures of that? Picture of the back?
No, I did not.
How many cars do you trailer
How many cars do we trailer?
for? Yeah.
We have a total of 6, and we don't take them all at any one time. But we have show cars. In the other building is a 31 Model A, and a 72 Corvair, and a 69 Chevelle. And so this is where the pickup and the 22 Ford is. And then in the garage by the house is where I store my driving vehicle every day.
So my question is, how many cars can fit in?
Oh,
inside
3.
the trailer?
I'm sorry. I thought you asked how many did I trailer?
No, how many can fit inside the trailer?
Inside of there?
Inside, and you say you have a trailer. You have a trailer for your cars, show cars.
We have a trailer for the Harley.
Oh, for the
And then we
Harley.
have open trailers for the cars. We don't have an enclosed trailer for any of the cars.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who brought this to the attention of code enforcement?
Yes, I do. They left.
I think they're still here, but that's okay. I'm sure
Oh,
we'll hear
they're
from
still
them.
here then.
That's fine. You'll have your chance. Okay.
And it was put out, it was posted on, we have a neighborhood thing where, I don't know if you have it, if you pull up your zip code, you're in a neighbor.
Next door.
And the invitation was posted there in addition to all the neighbors receiving a sign. So, but one of the neighbors called in, that's what Mr. Christensen told me, because that's what made him come out.
I understand. Thank you. Yeah, I understand.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone speaking in opposition. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Ann Creekmore, and I live at 605 Windermere Court, Hampton, Georgia. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak this evening. I'm against offering the variance for this newest building at 504 Bethelview Drive. This new building was built, I was told when I called the zoning office, after Henry County specifically denied the owner's request for a building permit. The fact that the owner went ahead and built this metal building even after being denied a permit, after I was told, was a blatant disrespect to the Henry County Planning and Zoning Department. In previous years, the owner has added multiple buildings, an additional driveway, and all of this to the property. This yard is quickly becoming sort of an eyesore in our neighborhood. The multiple buildings on this neighborhood lot are in varying materials. There's brick, metal, and some has vinyl siding. The owner has already exceeded the outdoor square footage of building space allowed by Henry County Code, as previously mentioned, on this property. The trees that provide the blockage are my trees. They're my property that I have allowed to grow up to block these eyesores. I've allowed them to grow over the years. They're not very tall, but only because I allowed them to grow and given up my green space for that area. I feel that if another variance is given, because I was told this is the second variance that's been asked for at this property, is an outright against Henry County Code, and this will just be repeated again, turning our attractive neighborhood into what looks like a warehouse area. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Phillips. I live 600 Windermere Court. I apologize for my appearance, but I wanted to make sure I was here at this meeting. I just came in from vacation. It is an eyesore. These are three-sided brick homes with brick mailboxes with a minimum of an acre coverage. There are no trees blocking this. Every time you drive down the road, you've got to pass these. Aside from that, the point is I just had an enclosed patio. I had to get a permit. I had to have them come out 2-3 times to check, was there the cement, the depth that was supposed to be, and this and that. If these are the rules or the laws that we have, I would appreciate respectfully that you support them and not allow this variance, since from what I do understand is that this is the second time that they are doing this without permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition? Okay, no one's coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Please come forward, ma'am.
My question is simply, did you get a building permit, and did they deny it, and did you still build it?
I did not ask for a permit. I didn't come over here to permit until Mr. Christensen talked to me in my driveway the morning he was doing that report. And I'd like to correct, this is not a second variance. I have not asked for a variance in the past. And the first building was put up at the same time the house was put up, and the builder got a permit for everything that was required to be done with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for staff? Okay. If not, call the case, please.
Case number VR-19-01, Joanne Tim of Hampton, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 504 Bethel View Drive in land lot 141 of the 3rd District. The property consists of 1.104 plus or minus acres, and the request is to permit an existing building to store vehicles. This property is located in Commission District 2 and was presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
We have a motion. I'm sorry. I heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I do. I would like to make a motion that the board agree with staff recommendation to deny this variance request for VR 19-01.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Call the next case, please.
Case number VR-19-03, B. Mance Waldrop of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 2820 East Lake Road in land lot 17 of the 7th District. The property consists of 18.832 plus or minus acres, and the request is to permit the adaptive reuse of an existing building. This property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootshill, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The subject property before you tonight is located at the intersection of North Ola Road and East Lake Road. The subject property is outlined in green on the overhead and also in your exhibit books. The request is to reduce the front yard setback for the subject property from the required minimum in the RA zoning district of 75 to the existing distance between this concrete barn structure, the original structure, and the right-of-way line. So you'll notice in the the site plan that was included in your exhibit books, and in this instance, it's highlighted in yellow, and I understand that it's very difficult to see, but it indicates that the existing distance between this concrete block building and the right-of-way line is 37 feet. And that's based upon the right-of-way width that's indicated on this site plan for East Lake Road of 60 feet. After the staff report was published, it came to staff's attention that this is in error, that the right-of-way width for East Lake Road in this area is actually 80 feet. So that means that the applicant doesn't need a variance from 75 feet to 37, but rather the applicant needs a variance from 75 feet to 27. So you'll notice in your exhibit books and also on the overhead, these are the pictures that were taken of the site. And it shows fence posts that were placed, and it was related to me by a representative from the County Department of Transportation that these fence posts will be required to be moved because this is based upon the erroneous survey. So these fence posts will need to be moved closer to the structure by 10 feet. So This perspective was used to show the distance between the existing structure and the right-of-way line is estimated by the fence, but in estimation, it's actually 10 feet closer. So staff has evaluated the applicant's request. We've taken a look at the various criteria points. We've noted that the ordinance strictly requires that each of these criteria points be met. We've not found that to be the case, so therefore staff recommends denial of the applicant's request. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Does the board have questions for staff? Mr. Plummer.
Stacey, are there
Other homes on that street that are similarly situated, meaning that they don't meet the setback requirements now?
I'm not aware of any. This is actually a retrofit of an existing concrete block barn or agricultural structure for use as a single-family home. And that's when the setback requirement begins to be effective, is when that structure is used as a home. The setback of 75 feet is for the primary residence. Yes, sir.
Okay, I think what the applicant is doing is, taking advantage of an already existing building, I think, which had been in that area for a long time. It was actually an agricultural building at one time, so it's, been a fixture there for quite some time, and I think what he is simply doing is adding what will be his dwelling or house, and making the old building, the agricultural building, part of that dwelling. So the addition would be, I would think, would be more than 75 feet off the right of way.
Mr. Richard, let me just say, and I know that this is so difficult to see, the highlighted part is for the distance between the existing agricultural building that you described and the right-of-way line, but it also includes the addition to that structure that's being planned. And this survey indicates that the distance between that proposed structure and the right-of-way line that's indicated is 69 feet, which does not comply with the 75-foot minimum requirement, but also with the updated information that we've received from the Henry County Department of Transportation, that would actually be a distance of 59 feet from the right-of-way line for the proposed addition to the existing agricultural structure.
So you're saying that the proposed addition would be less than 75 feet from the right-of-way?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Well, let me make sure I understand what you're saying, Stacey. I thought what I heard you say was that the fact that he wanted to renovate the existing barn there and make it livable, that would not be in accordance with the code.
Because it doesn't meet the minimum setback requirement for a primary residence. That's correct.
So the fact that he is also proposing to add a structure or in addition to that existing building is of no consequence, really.
It really isn't, but I think it's of interest to this board to note that that addition to the existing structure also doesn't meet the minimum setback requirement.
Okay.
But since he has not started that structure, he has time to alter his plans to where it would be out of the 75-foot setback.
For the addition.
Hopefully.
Yes, sir. I'm sure that's the case. We might be able to get more information from the applicant about that.
Okay.
Does the board have additional questions? Yeah, one last question. Okay. I don't know whether you can answer this or not. If the variance was granted, and in the future, if an accident occurred, is the county exposed to any type of liability as a result?
No, sir, I would not think so.
But I would caution on asking liability questions because that gets into litigation and legal. So that will be a question best answered by our legal representation, being the county attorney and county management.
Any additional questions for staff? If not, will the applicant come forward, please? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Mance Waldrop. Address is 6400 Crest Manor Court, McDonough, Georgia, 30253.
Anything you'd like to add to staff recommendation, Mr. Matt?
Well, I appreciate y'all's time, and I'll be brief because there's a lot of people that have spent a lot of it. I guess in regards to the right-of-way and the setbacks and some of those issues, if I pass out, my wife's going to have to fill in, okay? We're talking about 27 feet now. A week ago, this was, 37 feet. We're talking about setbacks, and the bottom line, the front doors of this house are 59 feet from the edge of the road. Just in plain English, that's what it is. There's 9 other properties around there that are well within that. 1612 East Lake Road's at 51 feet. 1994 East Lake Road's at 48.8. 2520 East Lake's at 52. 2727 East Lake is possibly less than 30. 8030 Lakemont Close, 60 foot. I lived there for 19 years and I was excited. I'm excited to have 59 if we have the opportunity. As far as the building and the addition to the structure, my thoughts about the property in general, we fell in love with it when we saw it. We were blessed and privileged to have the opportunity to purchase and acquire the land that had been in the Eccles family for generations, all the way back into early 1900s. I think we're doing something really nice that'll add a lot to this corner coming down into North Ola. I do have pictures I can show you of kind of what I'm anticipating. But again, I understand we're also accepting living close to the road. I've got walls that'll be 2 feet thick with block and stone on each side. I've got replaced windows in the building to put some high performance windows that are also reclamations of what was there. We're doing something to try to preserve the history and beauty of the site that'll last for hopefully centuries to come, and generations of my family to come, given the opportunity. I've worked in the building industry in Henry County for 25 years, lived in Henry County for over 25 years. There have been hundreds and hundreds of homes proposed before you tonight that will affect this county and traffic. People flock to traffic because people want to live in a desirable area, and they'll sit in traffic if they have to do it. I travel all over Georgia. If it's an Alpharetta, Buckhead coming, they will gladly sit on West Paces for 30 minutes to live in West Paces. And people will gladly do it on Elliott Road, Campground, East Lake, Airline, and they'll line up to do it. I'm asking for, on 18.83 acres, one variance for one home for me and my family. That'll be one septic tank. I don't want to push the issue. I want to be humble about it, but the addition to the structure and potentially setting it back further and reconfiguring it with the existing dairy barn, I believe would impact the looks and the aesthetic appearance of it. I think it would look like two structures, and joining those two and merging them into one thing that I believe people will be proud of, I don't believe would work with our vision of what we have planned. I do have pictures I can gladly show you of the original. I think some of you guys have seen them from our packets. You guys put these here.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
This is the original structure on a rainy day, but cleaned it up a lot. We're proud to be a part of it. This is it on a dry day, on And this is what people have come to see when they're riding down the road for the last 20 years. And, you know, this is what we're looking at doing. And, you know, I feel pretty comfortable this is a nice product. There's a lot of talk about size, and everything in tonight's meetings has been density, and square footage, and blowing out lot sizes to make sure these builders do what they're supposed to do. I'm probably the lowest density guy on the agenda for the evening for what I'm trying to do. This is just another site plan. You know, I replace the windows, stonework on the exterior, try to spruce the existing building up, and I am absolutely at your mercy on continuing forward with any type of variance for the addition. I've got to get an LDP through the building department. You know, there's a lot to accomplish, but we've done everything in preparation of doing that. It's already passed for soil test. I don't see any other problematic things that would arise from me doing this and creating this, what we're looking at. As far as the right-of-way and the setbacks and new information that come to light, you know, I've got, and you guys also have a handful of documents that show setbacks continually being 30 feet. In the 30 feet when I closed on the property several months ago, 30 feet back in the 90s and the 80s, I can pull them out. And then we ran into an issue with the fence. I checked with, forgive me, as far as the fencing goes and getting that knocked out, first thing I did was check online for fence setbacks. You hear all kind of different things, and they do affect the visual presentation, in my opinion, of the home and where it sits and the final product. The first thing I did was check the internet, 30 feet. Checked the plat, 30 feet. I checked online again, found 30 feet again. I checked with the tax assessor's office in person, 30 feet. Checked with the building department, 30 feet. I went down the street where the water authority was working. On the other side of the road, they had flagged my property. Checked with them to make sure nothing's affected. 2 weeks later, and they said, no, doesn't affect you at all. 2 weeks later, guy rides down through there, and they have a meeting, and that's when I think the DOT got called because there was a question about it. There was an initial offer of me to just sign something in agreement that if they ever had to take a section of fence down, I'm completely understanding and willing to do that. But when the DOT got involved, that was when the 40-foot come back. When the 40-foot came back, they pulled a document from 1964 and said that 40-foot document supersedes anything that I have. Anything that from my purchase 3 or 4 months ago, that 1964 document seemed to be more favorable to them. And they were apologetic that they had run into this issue. There was discussion of them possibly paying to move the fence back for me. I don't want the fence moved back, quite frankly. It looks good where it is. All the other fences are at the same distance. So, you know, in regards to the fence, I wasn't even prepared to discuss it, but I have notes on it because I've documented everything as I've done it, trying to do it right. Again, I could go on all night, so any questions you have, please feel free.
I have a question.
Yes.
Look, you had a picture. This was a dairy.
Yes.
Right, which is really the main reason you wanted to.
Yeah.
Because the inside, the picture, you had a picture of the inside. It had the, I guess something you'd see on HGTV. So is that why you chose to remodel this structure?
No, my wife and I fell in love with the property, the view, and the structure and the potential for the structure. There's certainly some HGTV things about it, but you know, in my opinion, this is not a pipe dream for me. We're doing it right. We're not turning an old silo into our bedroom. or putting a tree house out of this or that. We're just incorporating the old with the new. I'll grab a couple of photos you're talking about. You know, in cleaning up the place and doing different things, you know, this is, you can't really get a good visual of it if, I don't think, unless you work in the business or into this kind of stuff. But, you know, you got post and beam construction everywhere. We use an old barn wood in the ceilings. I mean, we're using the wood that was removed from the ceiling to put back in the ceiling. We're repurposing things. So there's some neat processes involved with this. Looking for another picture or other pictures for you, but we've got a lot of stone veneer throughout, just covering the old block structure. I mean, that's what makes these walls 2 feet thick. I've shown you the windows and doors. You know, this stuff's not cheap, to be honest. And you know, certainly spent this money at my own risk, but we want to do it and want to do it right. And as far as the variance goes, I believe, given what we are hoping to do and complete and how we would go about it, I would hope it would be something you guys would be proud of 6 months from now if you drove by there or saw pictures of it.
Mr. Richmond.
Yes, sir.
If you had to move the new addition back towards the lake, you'd almost be in the lake, it looks like, from...
You run into, given the size of the lake in comparison to the property in the distance, you can end up with some septic tank issues, you can end up with runoff issues, and yes, sir, quite frankly, you get closer than you want.
Yeah, so I don't think pushing it back further in that direction would be helpful at all.
There's already a pole barn there now.
Right.
That, you know, so to push it back, it would just create an odd look.
Well, I have one question now in terms of the fence.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, that's a DOT issue, and if DOT basically says that it has to be moved, we don't have any say-so over that. But is that a deal breaker with you? Is that something that you feel like you can't move the fence?
I mean, quite frankly, I don't have a choice, right? You know what I want, and I've been genuine about how I've done it with the fence. I offered to core breakaway holes in all the 6x6 posts that we're using all the way down the street through the fence. I mean, I use 6x6s instead of 4x4s, or instead of this, that, or whatever. We're trying to do it nice and trying to do it right. But I offered to core holes in every single fence post all the way down East Lake Road to their breakaway points in the event a car hits them or a bicyclist or whatever. So I've offered to do that. I've offered to sign a waiver. Basically, the water line, they got one water line here, and they have one water line here. And my understanding is the DOT is another entity. Stacy may clarify with me, but my fence is in the middle of the water line. So you kind of going to cross, no matter it. I can't seem to win, quite frankly, and everybody points to the DOT as the ultimate. And so my last conversations with them was, I'll be glad to core away breakaway holes, be glad to compromise any way I can. I'll be glad to sign anything.
Okay. Any additional question for that?
Mr. Walton,
Yes, sir.
were you aware that you needed a variance before you started that renovation on the inside of the barn?
Stacy made it extremely clear that I needed a variance before we added an addition to that structure, because the addition was in the, would be within that 69 foot number. He was very clear about that.
No, not about adding the additional structure, but to renovate the barn, the inside of the barn. Were you aware that you need a variance
No.
in order to renovate it and live in it?
I don't think he needs a permit
Well,
just to put stone on the outside and to
No.
put up the framing for rooms.
Yeah, as far as the variance goes, it was not aware I needed a variance to do anything to the existing structure. I understand Stacy was clear about if you want to put a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, you would need a variance, but we don't know. We simply don't know. What I can tell you is the original dairy barn had a shower, it had running water, and that's my thing. I have water, I have power. There's a garage on one of these. There's a garage that's detached that's 30, 40 yards away. It sits just as close. It has power water. So I hope I've answered your question, but uncertain. But the original dairy barn had all of these features in it. We've just been upgrading them with the hopes that we can get this thing to work.
Any additional questions? Okay, if not, you may be seated, sir. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case.
My name's Dan Patterson. I live at 2703 East Lake Road, McDonough. The property is adjacent to my family's property, Mr. Chairman. The Patterson family, I don't know where is this, but I can point out where we are. Oh, okay, here we are. Our family has, in this area, this block right here, 260 acres. And I live in one of the oldest houses in Henry County. I see Henry County was formed in 1821. My house was there before that. And I'm right up the road from Mance's property here. I can see it from my front steps. When you get into how close you can be to the road, and you know in the old days they built the house right on the road, and mine is. From my front porch to the edge of the driveway, I did a cursory measure on the way out here. It's like 49 feet. And I have a white picket fence that is halfway the distance between my front porch and the road. And I also have the honor of having a forced main sewer line about 5 feet from my front steps that came right through there that I can't use, but anyway, that's just part of it. As a matter of fact, the county had to take my fence down. I didn't realize it was going to be a talk about a fence tonight, but they had to remove the fence when they ran the sewer line through there, and then the county paid to put it back. So my fence is a whole lot closer than his. And another thing about the traffic with the DOT that I would point out, if you'll notice, it's a straightaway coming here, and most of the traffic, I'd say 99.9% of the traffic that goes by his property is going to take a right there on North Ola Road, because that goes back to Jasper County and Ola and everywhere else. There's a whole lot of cars go by every day. But they have to slow down right in front of his house to make that hard right turn. If you go to the left, there's only about 15 or I don't even know if there's 15 houses down that road before it dead ends into another piece of our property on the South River. So also people coming from Jasper County or Ola going up this road, but when they hit North Ola Road right there, when they hit each lake, they've got to come to a complete stop and then make a left turn. So they're not accelerated going in front of his house. They're much more accelerated going in front of my house, which, like I said, is probably maybe, I don't know if it's a quarter of a mile up the road or whatever. But anyway, I think I've run out of time. Or did you set the clock?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. I looked up and saw a big zero there. But anyway, I'm highly in favor of this going in. This property is, I'm a native of there. I'm 66 years old, born and raised. We had a dairy farm with the Eccles. We shared back and forth doing labor with each other there. And I'm just highly excited to know that he is trying to restore this property, because that's what I did with the house that I'm in. It was my grandmother's house. And I did run into the same situation. I did add, and this was 30 years ago, in 1989, when I restored the house. Of course, the county didn't have some of the regulations that they do now, but I added a 12 by 16 sunroom off the back of my farmhouse there. And there was some discussion about you're too close to the road for an addition, but I didn't have to come to a variance or whatever, but they went ahead and approved it, so it's still there.
So I appreciate your time, and I'm highly in favor of his restoration of this property.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of the case?
Yes, my name is Norman Eccles. I live just down the street from this property. My dad was a livestock trader. He rode up in the yard down where Mr. Curry lives, asked the man if he had any livestock he wanted to sell, and he said, "I'll sell you the whole place." He said, "How much you want for it?" He told him, he says, "I can't go now, but I'll be back tomorrow and we'll walk it and I'll see." He went down, he bought it the next day. Over the next few years, he bought his neighbor's place and he wound up with 529 acres. And he wanted to put a dairy in. That was 1950. So this building is about 70 years old. And he built that dairy, started off with just a few cows. I come in and took the dairy over in '66. We moved it up to we was milking about 150 cows. It was hard to find labor that wanted to work 7 days a week and wade in cow manure, so we sold out in '74. The building has been sitting, as he mentioned. It was just sitting there, and we tore down some of the outbuildings, and my brother Dean, he got this part of this property, and he sold it to Mr. Waldrop, and I am tickled to death with what he's done already, and I know that it will be an asset to the community. It's a unique, rustic-looking building, and I do hope that y'all allow him to build his house. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor? I have about 2 minutes left.
Yes, sir. Dean Eccles at East Lake Road. I would like to just address part of the fence problem, the discussion. I personally took down the fence all the way across the front of that property. There was an existing fence there as little as 6-8 months ago, and it's exactly within 2 feet of where the fence is that he's talking about putting there. So there was a fence there, and it has been there for 50 or 75 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor? Okay. If not, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this case. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. If not, does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant? Okay. Call the case, please.
Case number VR-19-03, B. Mance Waldrop of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located 2820 East Lake Road in land lot 17 of the 7th District. The property consists of 18.832 plus or minus acres, and the request is to permit the adaptive reuse of an existing building. This property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootsil, Chief Planner.
Okay. We heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the variance for the existing building and the addition so that the construction can proceed on this dwelling.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, call the next case, please. Oh, I'm sorry, that's 8. That's okay. Thank you.
You're on autopilot.
Motion to adjourn. That's right, just move.
Mr. Chair, was there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Was there a second?
Second, yeah.
Okay.
Dante's ready to go.